Hi, everybody. I just finished grading your reassessments for standards 1 through 11, and I've updated your grades in the Canvas grade book as well. So I just want to say a few words about that and then talk about what's coming up next week. So first of all, sharing my screen. If you scroll down to standards 1 through 11 reassessment information, you'll see a blank version of the reassessment and as well as the key. So after I send you your reassessments, you can check comments I made against the key and check your work against the key. And please do reach out and let me know if you have any questions at all. Now, at this point, you have enough scores in the grade book you might be starting to think about, okay, well, what's my grade in the class, right? And so this is a good time to remind you that your grade's not based on a percentage or anything like that. It's based upon your level of mastery on the standards of the course. So that can be a little bit tricky to figure out by just looking at the syllabus. So what I've done is in important links, if you go to Grade Projector, you recall we talked about this in the first week, but in the Grade Projector, this is a tool that you can use throughout the quarter, depending upon how many standards you've actually assessed on. And all you do is you type in your scores for each standard. And of course, zero stands for not yet, one for novice, two for developing, three for proficient, and four for expert. And so you can see, it says use after standards 6 through 11 assessment. So once you've done 11 standards, you can put your scores in. And what it'll do is it'll say, okay, what letter grade are you on pace to get? And so with the set of scores that are typed in there right now, this person's on pace for a C, assuming they continue at the same rate. Okay, of course, they may not continue at the same rate, right? They might do better, in which case their grade would go up. Also, what I want you to keep in mind is that this is still, since you've only done 11 assessments, pretty volatile. So if I throw a couple of ones in here, well, that's going to take me down to a C minus because it assumes that I'm going to get 5 ones at the end of the quarter. But let's say you do have ones or maybe even a zero, right? Let's say this is what your grade looks like. And so it's now saying you're at a D plus. Okay. Remember, you're not allowed to have zeros at the end of the quarter, right? And you can't have very many ones at all. And you have to have at least you have to have a fair amount of threes and fours on the book. So, what if your grade is still after the reassessment not in a place where you like it? I briefly mentioned this at the beginning of the quarter, but I think now is the time to talk about this in greater detail. So if we go to our calendar, all right, here we are on May 8th. You'll notice that you have an assessment on standards 12 through 17 next Thursday on May 15th. All right, but what I want to draw your attention to right now is if I go into June and we look at Thursday, the 5th of June, this says standards 1 through 23 second reassessment. Okay, so what's that all about? So from standards 1 through 23, at the end of the quarter, I allow you to pick 5 standards from throughout the quarter that you want to take one more crack at. Okay, so you only get to pick 5 at the end. But what's going to happen is you're going to assess on 12 through 17, then you'll assess on 18 through 23, and then you'll have a reassessment opportunity for 12 through 23, just like we just had for 1 through 11. So that's all going to continue in the same way. But then at the very, very end of the quarter, you get to pick 5 standards that you want to take one more shot at. So if you do have still a 0 or a 1 in this group of 1 through 11, don't give up, don't despair. Know that, okay, I'm just going to really make sure that I learn this material. Of course, come to me for help. Check out Math Care for All or the Math Center in person for help. But you can still bring that up. Okay. Now, if you have 8 zeros, that's a problem because you only get to pick 5 at the very end of the quarter. But if you just have a couple standards here or there that are much lower than you want them to be, you will have an opportunity to bring those up. All right, so please do let me know if you have any questions about that at all. And again, our next assessment, as you can see, is next Thursday, May 15th. All right, thanks. I'll be sending you your graded reassessment shortly, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. Thanks.